Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more.
First, I want to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day. But as for this weekend's box office on March 17th, 2024, Kung Fu Panda 4 remained in first place in its second weekend at the box office, Dune Part 2 was in a very close second place in its third weekend, and Madame Web slid even further into obscurity as it dropped all the way down to 12th place overall. But before proceeding, I'd like to ask everyone to please like this video, please subscribe to this channel, and please press the bell to receive notifications. Thanks! First, we'll do a quick recap of this weekend's top 5 movies at the domestic box office. In first place at this weekend's domestic box office was Kung Fu Panda 4, which earned another $30 million to bring its current domestic box office total up to $107.7 million. And that was a drop of only 48.27% from its opening weekend box office earnings. Internationally, it earned another $46.5 million to bring its current international box office total up to $68.8 million. Globally, it earned another $96 million to bring its current global gross box office total up to $176.5 million. In second place was Dune Part 2, which earned another $29.1 million domestically to bring its current domestic box office total up to $205.3 million, and that was a third weekend drop of only 37.03%. Internationally, the movie earned another $78.9 million to bring its current international box office total up to $289.4 million. So globally, the movie earned another $127.2 million to bring its current global gross box office total up to $494.7 million, which surpassed the $431.2 million that the 2021 Dune movie earned in 2021. Coming in third place this weekend was the relatively low-budget Mark Wahlberg movie Arthur the King, which opened to a rather weak $7.5 million. The movie has yet to open in other countries, but given the small number that are currently scheduled along with its weak opening weekend box office, I find it unlikely that Arthur the King will be able to even break even with its $19 million production budget. In fourth place this weekend was the low-budget thriller Imaginary in its second weekend at the box office, earning another $5.6 million domestically to bring its current domestic box office total up to $19.1 million. Internationally, the movie has thus far earned $1.7 million to give the movie a current global gross box office total of $20.8 million. And in fifth place this weekend was the faith-based movie Cabrini, also in its second weekend at the box office, earning another $2.8 million domestically to bring its current domestic box office total up to $13 million. Internationally, the movie has earned $90,000 to bring its current global gross box office total up to $13.1 million. Another movie that opened this weekend is the highly unusual, racially motivated, and allegedly satirical movie, The American Society of Magical Negroes. Given that the movie does contain some special effects and CGI, its currently unreported production budget is probably between $20 million to $50 million. But the movie only earned $1.25 million at the domestic box office, putting it into 9th place overall this weekend, and the movie has yet to open in any overseas markets, where I don't expect it to fare much better. Thus, this movie is a bona fide flop that has essentially zero appeal to the broader movie-going public. Going back to Kung Fu Panda 4, this is the fourth movie in a franchise that has a franchise average weekly drop of only 28.52%, which is incredibly low, and its standard deviation is only 0.49%. In order to project how well Kung Fu Panda 4 might do domestically, I decided to multiply that standard deviation by 10 so that I could create a broader possible range of average weekly drops from 23.66% to 33.38%. And using that range, I can project that the final domestic box office earnings for Kung Fu Panda 4 may range from $206.9 million at the low end, $239.1 million at the mid-range, and $266.1 million at the upper end. So Kung Fu Panda 4 could conceivably break even just on its domestic box office alone, due to its significantly lower production budget of only $85 million as compared with its three predecessors, whose average production budget is $140 million. And that's because when I multiply that $85 million production budget by 2.5, I get a mid-range estimated break-even point of only $212.5 million. To account for the 50% of gross box office ticket sales that movie theaters keep for themselves, as well as the additional costs of marketing the movie and other miscellaneous costs that the studio pays above and beyond the production budget. And due to the movie's staggered international openings, its domestic share that was around 72.4% last week dropped to around 61.05% this weekend, and I expect that it will continue to drop as it opens in more international markets. But just based on the movie's still relatively high domestic share of 61.05%, the movie's current projections for its final global gross box office revenue range from $338.9 million at the low end, $379.8 million at the mid-range, and $435.9 million at the upper end, which is considerably higher than last week's projections, which I had explained were artificially lower than they should be due to the movie's staggered international openings. In fact, the movie doesn't open in China until next weekend. So Kung Fu Panda 4 will most definitely break even thanks to its very low production budget. Now, going back to Dune Part 2, using the same range of possible average weekly drops from 32.86% to 42.86%, as I had used in last week's projections, my revised projections for the movie's final domestic box office earnings now range from $269.4 million at the low end, $284.2 million at the mid-range, and $303.3 million at the upper end, which is a slightly narrower range than last week's projections, but still within that range. And now that the movie is playing in most international markets, the movie's domestic share dropped again from last week's value of 42.73% to its current value of 41.5%. And while that may not seem like much, when combined with its final domestic box office projections, the revised final global gross box office projections for Dune Part 2 now range from $649.1 million at the low end, $684.7 million at the mid-range, and $730.8 million at the upper end. Now, since Dune Part 2 has an estimated break-even point range from $475 million to $570 million, which is calculated by multiplying its $190 million production budget by 2.5 and 3.0 respectively, since its box office has already surpassed the mid-range point, it has either already broken even or is well on its way. And that brings us to our final movie update for this video, which is none other than Madame Web. Currently in its 5th weekend at the box office and coming in 12th place overall, domestically the movie only earned another $400,000 to bring its current domestic box office total up to $43.5 million. Internationally, the movie doesn't appear to have earned anything more this weekend, so it remains at the same value that's just under $54 million. So globally, the movie earned another $911,000 to bring its current global box office total up to $97.5 million. Given how small the movie's weekly increases in box office have become, I will only use a single average weekly drop value instead of a range for projecting its final domestic box office earnings, and that single value is 34.14%, which is the average weekly drop for Sony's and Columbia Pictures' previous 16 Marvel movies. And when I do that, I can project that the final domestic box office for Madame Web will likely be around $45.3 million. So it is definitely destined to become the lowest grossing Marvel movie domestically of all time for Sony and Columbia Pictures, since it won't be able to earn more than the $51.8 million that Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance earned way back in 2012. And using the movie's current domestic share of 44.63%, I can project that the movie's final global gross box office values will probably be around $101.4 million. So while the movie might still break $100 million globally, Madame Web is also destined to become the lowest grossing Marvel movie worldwide for Sony and Columbia Pictures by failing to earn more than the $149.2 million that Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance earned globally back in 2012, which doesn't take inflation into account. So just as Disney's recently released female-led movie The Marvels became the lowest grossing movie of all time for the MCU and its 33 movies, the female-led Madame Web is earning the same fate for Sony and Columbia Pictures and their 17 Marvel movies. Given the movie's $100 million production budget, when multiplied by 2.5 and 3.0, that yields an estimated break-even point range of $250 million to $300 million. Thus, the movie currently stands to lose somewhere between $146.2 million to $199.9 million in global gross box office revenue, which, when divided by 2 to account for the 50% of gross box office ticket sales that movie theaters keep for themselves, means that Sony and Columbia Pictures are probably going to lose somewhere on the order of $73.1 million to $100 million, which means that Madame Web is definitely one of 2024's biggest losers at the box office. So while Madame Web epitomizes the saying, "Go woke, go broke," Warner Bros. Discovery's sci-fi movie Dune Part 2 and DreamWorks' animated movie Kung Fu Panda 4 are both going to break even and earn a profit. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, and please feel free to share a comment. If you'd like to help support this channel, please press the red subscribe button, and please press the bell to receive notifications for new content. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.